Hi, I'm Lady Charmaine, and my guest today is an actress, author, activist, businesswoman, TV personality, and the first Black supermodel. She rose to fame as one of the first models to appear on the cover of American Vogue and French edition of Elle magazine. She has graced over 500 magazine covers and is considered a legend in her own right. She's here today to talk about her new own reality show starring her daughter Anansa. We're going to be talking about the Beverly Johnson Full House. If you missed the show, you're missing a treat. Help me welcome supermodel Beverly Johnson to the show. How you doing, Beverly?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, your resume, when you go through it, I mean, you have done a plethora of things. So I'm going to talk about each woman that Beverly Johnson is. And the first one I want to talk about is Beverly Johnson, the supermodel. And for those who may not know, what does a supermodel mean? Now, we have models, but you are a supermodel. Can you define the difference?
Let's see. I don't change my clothes in a telephone booth, but what happened is that came a particular time when models, you not only recognized their face, but you also knew their names. And so I came up with this group of models like Christy Brinkley and Cindy Crawford, Kim Alexis and Kathy Ireland, where you not only knew our faces from the fashion magazines and from the runway, but you also knew our name. And that's how supermodels came about.
Okay, I never knew that. I always wanted to know what was the difference, because you were an inspiration for so many African American girls. I mean, you help little girls, especially African American, to realize that they can be whatever they want it to be. How does it feel knowing that you are a trailblazer for the Naomi Campbells, the Tyra Banks, and the Salida Ebanks?
You know, I stood on the shoulders of Naomi Sims, and she was my predecessor, and she was an amazing, beautiful model. She's no longer with us. She had this amazing Look magazine cover. So, you know, I just really am so honored when I hear, you know, Tyra Banks or Naomi Campbell, you know, speak to me and recognize me and thank me. I just think it's a tremendous honor to be on the cover of Vogue and to have that blessing. And I just always wanted to do the best by that gift that I got.
And you were named one of the 20th century most influential people in fashion by Time magazine. Did you ever think that your career in fashion would span this long and have such an impact on the fashion industry for so many years?
Well, I've always wanted to, when I first started modeling, because I was a competitive swimmer, I didn't know anything about modeling. I wanted to become a lawyer. But when it happened that the path turned to modeling, I just wanted to be the best at it. And I think that's the key to, you know, whatever one does. Is just try to be the best they can at it. And I've been at it a long time. I've you know, took all those gifts of beauty and fashion and turned them into a company that I've built, Beverly Johnson's Enterprises, where we have beauty products in Target today. And it's just been an absolutely wonderful ride. It's been absolutely a beautiful journey, I must say.
And so you just mentioned Beverly Johnson, your beauty products, and I want to talk about Beverly Johnson, the businesswoman. You have a line of wigs that all nationalities are wearing today. What inspired you to start a wig line?
Well, 14 years ago, I went with a company, and it was a royalty deal and a licensing deal. And I learned so much, and we were the fourth largest company in the nation. And this is before people were wearing hair extensions. Recently, I have not re-signed with this company, and I decided that I was going to go into business for myself. And I wanted my wig and hair extension line to be carried not only in the Korean beauty supply stores, which is the only place they were sold. I also want to be able to have my line in the black beauty supply stores and also in major retail stores. So I must say I'm the proud owner of the new luxurious Beverly Johnson wig and hair extension. And it's been very challenging, but it's so wonderful, not really having to compromise on the quality, on the styles, and also to be able to offer the wigs and hair extensions to all of the people that couldn't get them before.
Because you mentioned on your show, Beverly, you said you no longer just wanted to be the face on a box and just collecting a check. You wanted your own box, and you wanted to leave a legacy for your daughter and for your granddaughter. What inspired that passion for you to be able to leave something down the line for them?
What inspired me?
Yes.
Well, what happened was, I'll tell you, I was always afraid of business because I thought, one, maybe, I didn't go to college. I don't have my MBA. Will I be able to do it? And finally, one day I just woke up. I said, you know what, girl? It's now or never. And I took a leap of faith. And I tell you, everything has been just falling in place. And yes, it is a tremendous amount of work. Sometimes I say, girl, why don't you just get that check every month? But, it's mine, and it's like building a house. And it's just been, and it's revitalized me. It's made me feel younger. Every morning I wake up with a purpose. I wake up with a smile on my face because of this company that I've built. And it's just been wonderful. It's like a whole new me.
That's good. I can hear that too. It gives you a sense of ownership, and you're able to really explore who you are and the things you really like. So that's great. And just to hear that, and you're evolving, even though you've done so many things, you're steadily evolving, and that's beautiful.
Thank you.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Beverly Johnson, the star of Beverly Johnson Full House on the OWN Network. Now, Beverly, we're going to talk about Beverly Johnson, the activist. You're a spokesperson for Global Down Syndrome Foundation, and this is a foundation that's very close to your heart. Can you tell us why?
Well, my first cousin has Down syndrome, and my sister has a Down syndrome child who's 23 years old. Her name is Natalie. And I had an opportunity. I was at an event, and a woman came up to me. She says, "I don't know if you'd be interested in this foundation I'm about, but it's about Down syndrome." I was like, "Oh my God, my niece has Down syndrome," and I've went through the whole process of trying to find the proper schools. They have very specific health issues, and it's really not easy. And the other thing that was disturbing to me is that an African American child with Down syndrome's life expectancy is age 23, where a white child with Down syndrome, their life expectancy is age 63. And we don't really know why that is, but I am an activist. I am the spokesperson for the Global Down Syndrome Foundation, and we, are going before Congress, and we want the necessary funds and funding to raise the money for research to find out exactly why that is, and also these children are so special. I mean, there was one child with Down syndrome because we go to these events. And, of course, we had a fashion show. And to see these kids light up, one could speak 7 languages. Another one, they all have these special gifts where, in the past, everyone thought that, if they had Down syndrome, you kind of like hid them away in a closet. And we're an organization where we are going to actually explore these children's special gifts, because they are special and very unique human beings that deserve to prosper, just like the rest of us.
Wow, that is beautiful. And I never knew that, from 63 to 24 and what the difference is. And we pray that they do find out what that is, because, life should be given to everyone, and long life. I never knew the difference. So I'm glad you brought that out to the audience today. I was unaware of that.
Yes.
Now, you recently completed a civil rights pilgrimage in Alabama. What's a civil rights pilgrimage, and what was that experience like for you?
That was one of the most profound weekends of my life. I'm a small town girl from Buffalo, New York. My father was a steel laborer and my mother was a nurse. And the Vogue cover, being the first African American and what that meant, that finally black beauty was accepted into mainstream America, right around the world. But when I went back to Alabama, and it was the walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and it was with Congressman John Lewis, who was there in the forefront with Martin Luther King. And it was with 25 U.S. congressmen, Ethel Kennedy, and 25 of the Kennedy clan. And we actually spent the whole weekend. We went to Martin Luther King's home from 1954 to 1960. But to think that they were beaten in 1964 because they were fighting for voting rights, and then just a mere 10 years later, well, actually it was 1965, and then actually a mere 9 years later, I'm on the cover of Vogue magazine, and I realized how distinct and how prevalent bigotry and racism was in our country at that particular time. But as a young girl model, I was oblivious to a lot of the very serious issues. So it was just it was so moving. It not only were there congressmen and people that actually were involved in the civil rights movement, but there were actually white police officers who came to Congressman John Lewis and said, I was the one that hit you over the head. I'm asking for your forgiveness. It was the most moving and profound weekend of my life.
He came to him and told him during that pilgrimage that he was the one that did it?
Yeah, there were a lot of people that got up and said, my father was in the Ku Klux Klan, my grandfather was in, my mother, and I didn't know any better. And it was reconciliation. I mean, I've never been in a place where whites who were on the other side of the civil rights movement. George Wallace's daughter was there with us. It was just very, very powerful and healing and very significant because it really made me realize, my place then, but also my place now, and it was just very informative, and just to walk across that same bridge where they were beaten, and now we had a police escort because we were, there were all these, they had 5% of Congress there, so they had the protection so that nothing happens, and that those were the same officers or the same institution, the police officers, that actually beat us because we were walking across the bridge for our voting rights. I'm going next year, and I'm bringing my mother.
Wow. So you could tell that had an impact on you.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. Now,
Yes,
I want to talk about Beverly Johnson, the author. Beverly Johnson's Your Guide to Life of Health and Beauty. Is that still available today, the book?
Well, I think you can get everything on eBay. Beverly Johnson's Guide to Life of Health and Beauty. Just so interesting. I just did some television shows where they're actually taking recipes. That book is really still stands the test of time. The other beauty book that I did after that is called True Beauty. And I'm due for another beauty book, actually.
That was my next question.
I'm really due for another beauty book. And I try to do, that one was in the 80s. The last beauty book was in the 90s. So it's time for me to do another one.
Yeah, we all need it. We need some beautiful beauty tips because if you have not watched Beverly Johnson's Full House, you look ageless and timeless. I look at the show and I'm looking at your skin and just how you are so well preserved. Can you just give us a couple of beauty tips? What are some of your beauty tips that you do every day?
Oh, my God. Well, I have to give it all to my mother and father. It's genes. If you see my mom, you would say, oh, yeah, absolutely. But there was a book, it's called The Blue Zone, and what National Geographic scientists went to 4 parts of the world, and they interviewed the centenarians. These people, the functioning centenarians, they were all over the age of 100, and they were all independent, still independent. And they found 4 points that were the thread to each one of them. And one was they all had an hour or an hour and a half of exercise a day. Some of them lived in mountainous areas, some were in the fields, but there was every day for 1 hour and a half. The second thing, they all ate very modest portions of food. 3, they all were very big in the community, meaning that, people were always coming over or they were always going to visit their family and friends. And 4, they all had a faith. They believed in God, Hindu, or what have you, but they all had very strong faith. And so I decided, if it's good for them, that's what I'm going to do. So those are the 4 points that I try to incorporate into my life on a daily basis.
So it's just, to sum it up, I hear faith, friends, family, fun, or exercise. And those are the keys that they all had that kept them looking healthy.
Yes.
Very simple. I think we all should be able to do that, and we all turn out looking like Beverly Johnson. So
and Beverly Johnson's beauty products.
There you go. Model Logic, available in Target.
Yes. And also on BeverlyJohnson.com.
Okay, look, we're doing our commercials all early. That's great. And then before we go into the reality, Beverly Johnson, the actress, you've done several things. You were also in Meteor Man, Def Jam's How to Be a Player, Crossroads, Law and Order, Parenthood, 30 Rock from the Sun, and even Tyler Perry's Meet the Browns. Do you plan on doing any more acting?
Oh, well, I did a little in Tyler Perry's new movie, Good Deeds. And I gave up the acting, and business keeps me really busy. But, when Tyler Perry says, come, do a movie for me, you go. So I still enjoy it, but my beauty products and my beauty business keeps me quite busy.
Now, I'm going to do a blast from the past, okay? From 1979, you released your first album on Buddha Records. What happened to the singing career?
Exactly. All 19 of those records. I tell you, if I played that album, I could run a whole room. I could clear out a room. It was so funny. You know what? Back then, I tried everything. I tried producing and writing, because you never know.
Right.
But one thing I do know, I can't sing. That's one thing I do know.
But at least you tried it. That's why when I was reading your bio and I was doing the research on you, when I saw all the things that you tried, because I'm a firm believer, nothing beats a failure but a try. And at least you tried it, and you know what you're good at. You know what you're not good at. You honed in on it. And now look, you're building the Beverly Johnson empire, and it's a great thing. So, but at least you tried it.
Yep.
And
right.
So you've been on a couple of reality TV shows. You were on one of my favorite shows, which was She's Got the Look. Loved it, for women over 35. What happened to that show?
Oh, it's so great, but I guess, everybody wasn't ready for it yet. We were chosen next supermodel over the age of 35. It was about second chances. It was a great show, and it was in my wheelhouse. We mentored these girls along, and we chose one to go ahead and have a modeling career. And so who knows? They might bring it back, but it was on TV Land, and it's no longer on the air.
I love that show. That show came out when I hit 35 and loved the show, because I'm like, wow, that meant I could have a second chance. It was a great show, and it was so inspirational. I really wish they really got that for, women such as myself. It was such an inspirational show. And speaking of modeling, you were also a guest judge on America's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks. But this
Yes.
is what I'm really excited about. You now have your own reality show, which premiered March 31st. Tell us about Beverly Johnson's Full House.
Well, it was an idea. My daughter and her husband and my new granddaughter, Ava, beautiful Ava, they come to live with me. And I thought, what an opportunity. You know, mother and daughter relationships are very complicated anyways. And I thought, what an opportunity to work with life coaches and therapists and really find out how can we get even a stronger bond. There were some, Anansa's father and I were divorced when she was very young, and there was a custody battle that ensued. And out of that custody battle, I actually lost custody to my child. Now, for me, that was the most devastating period of my life. Of course, I lived 10 blocks from them, and I was there every day. But it was something that I thought that I wanted to address with my daughters, particularly since she's going to be a mother. And because she was a reality TV fan, she said, absolutely. Of course, you know, I always say after the novelty wore off, he let her come give her back. He gave her back to me when she was about 11 years old, which are the fun years, you know, going into the teenage years. So there were a lot of things that I know for myself. If I had grown up in that kind of, you know, children of divorced parents, I would have a lot of questions. So we have a lot of laughs, we have a lot of tears, and I think that from the show, we call it a constructive reality show, that people will be able to take away tools for themselves, you know, about communication and building bonds, because, you know, that's why we're all here on earth, is to build relationships and good relationships.
Now, I have a question. I was watching this past Saturday's episode, and I know Anansa was a little perturbed because you kept leaving, you know, you were leaving the house and then she had to meet there. And I'm still trying to get the clarity of why you were leaving the house or leaving her at the house. Is it because you were being time conscious and you had somewhere to be at a certain time? And because you're a professional and you wanted to be there on time, and knowing Anansa, this is kind of what I got from the show. And because she had the baby, she was running a little behind, but you wanted to make sure you got there on time.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a businesswoman, and the other thing is, you know, like I said, my father was a steel laborer, my mother was a nurse. I don't know how it is to grow up like Anansa. You know, she grew up living all over the world, and you know, she came later with a car and driver. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm like, okay, but so I'm beginning to understand, you know, what it must be like to grow up and have everything that you ever wanted, and to be able to go to the best schools and never, you know, want from anything, and be the daughter of two famous parents. Her father brought reggae music to America in the 1960s. So her understandings and my understandings are in total contrast. So it's very interesting for both of us to explore these dynamics. And it's almost like when there's an accident and you have two eyewitnesses, you'll interview those two eyewitnesses and they will give you two totally different stories.
True. Mm-hmm.
And that's my daughter and I.
That was a good way to put it.
I said the guy had on a green sweater. She said, no, he didn't. He had on a red sweater. And we believe it firmly because of our own perceptions, because of our own past and history, and that's how you perceive things. That's why I think it's a very interesting show, because isn't that the way it is in the world, and isn't that why we have wars? And because we really, everybody perceives differently and from a different place. So we've, you know, I don't want to give away the whole show. So I want people to watch, but I think it's for me, it was very enlightening.
My last question for you, how did your show get picked up on the OWN network?
I pitched it too. I did the last show with Oprah Winfrey when she was her last 25th season. And after the show, I said, and she was going to do the network. And I said, I have some shows to pitch to you. And she was like, oh, you promise you're going to come up? And I had a number of shows. I knew they were like the one with Anansa now. And I told her some funny stories about my daughter, and she's moving in. She wants me to sign a contract because she doesn't want me to give her a curfew. I'm saying, Anansa, you're grown up now. There's no curfew. Just tell me what time to call the police if you're gone. 24 hours, 48 hours. So I had them laughing and everything. They said, that's the show we want. And so basically, that's how I did. We didn't even have a pilot. We went straight to series because my daughter was pregnant, so we had to move quickly. And that's how it came about.
That is great, and it's a great show. And if anyone hasn't seen the show, make sure you catch Beverly Johnson's Full House, airing every Saturday, 10/9 Central on the OWN network. Beverly, I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today on the show, and we would love to have you back.
Oh, I would love to come back, and thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me, and hopefully everybody will tune into the show, and everybody will come on BeverlyJohnson.com and find out what I'm doing and look at all my gorgeous products.
And we will. So thank you so much, Beverly, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay.